Today, we want to show you some videos of the ongoing ecological disturbance damage and aquifer breach in LaSalle headlands. LaSalle is just 3.5 miles away from Lake Itasca, and it's part of the headlands complex of the Mississippi River. And we found through thermal imaging last year that aquifer breaches had occurred along the new pipeline crossing. You can see the old pipeline and the yellow dots in this large valley. The red line is the pipeline. And we know that this crosses an important ecological resource of native plant communities. And we have high value, high resolution thermal imaging where the white spots are showing upwelling water coming right out of the pipeline where they tried to remove sheet piles. The pipeline corridor bounded on either side by native plants, and it's a complete disturbance within the pipeline. Here we have color air photos from drones and infrared images. In these images, the black is cold upwelling water, and you can see wherever the water is upwelling through the stream, and you can see that the old pipeline trenches cut off that flow. And there we're seeing industrial waste left across the site, these large filter bags. They're pumping the water or letting the water flow so that they can make an attempt to measure it. There's the black water, the cold water coming out. That's cold artesian groundwater that's been brought to the surface through the construction techniques where they were not paying attention to the aquifer conditions and the pressure that was underneath, and they may not be able to ever fix this without doing more damage. They're doing the work, but they're evading the issue of what happened. And a great video done by Dr. Laura Triplett that shows how the sheet piles were driven down through this environment, and they broke through a confining layer. They were able to pump out the water between the sheet piles so that they could install the pipeline, but it breached down into the aquifer and let this high pressure water flow all the way to the surface. And then they came in and cemented these shut and created a wall, a cement wall that totally cuts off the water flow in the lateral movement downslope down to LaSalle Creek, and it still has leaking of the aquifer. So they made this entire mess of construction site, continuing to work on the corridor, miles of silt fence that are still blocking the turtles and the frogs and the little critters that are migrating in and out, and upwelling water. The black streaks here are upwelling groundwater, and measuring the groundwater, putting it all into pipes. The antithesis of a natural environment where you had a native plant community that thrived and was dependent on the water resources as they naturally came out of the ground. And now the complete disturbance with a construction site with waste materials all over, silt fence everywhere, and the feeble attempts at the science to understand and document what the damages are. But we can see the damages. We can see the damages from outer space. We can see them with drone photos. We can see them with the thermal imaging. We can see the pipes. And we have questions on why we should be trusting Enbridge, their contractors in the state, to come up with plans that do more damage than less. We want no more damage on the pipeline. We want to preserve what's left. And the data-driven science of satellite connections for water flow are useless to us. Look into the woods and see what we've lost. And how are we going to preserve and restore the links? What's happened is Enbridge has destroyed our relationships with the water. They've taken it away, and instead of connecting us in the very headwaters of the Mississippi River, they've taken it away. They've captured it. And it's at their will that the water flows now, not the will of the planet, not the force of gravity and the natural flows of the water. It's been captured, directed, and damaged. And we want to know how and when we can expect the craziness to stop. We want the damage to stop. This is not helpful. We're asking Enbridge, the state of Minnesota, to be clear that damage has occurred that they are responsible, but they can do no more damage. And to make sure that this pristine water that's flowing to the surface has an ecological life other than that of the pipeline. And that we don't have to live with miles of silt fence and miles of barriers and miles of disturbance. The native plant community map is significant. Down near the bottom, you can see the aquifer breach, and it shows that we're crossing peatlands and floodplain forests and native plant communities that had to date not been disturbed, and we're cutting them in half. And we have an expectation that we want this to be restored. We want this connection to be restored, and that they're capturing this water and they're capturing our connection to the water is not the path that we want to see. We want the destruction to stop.